Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Champions. Today we have with us Bidemi. Please, can you introduce yourself to us, Bidemi?
Okay, my name is Bidemi. You can also call me Bidemi or Bidi. I'm here today to share my story of how between the ages of 2 and 18, I went through a traumatic period or season of vehicular accidents. How God has helped me, and now I've become someone that can empathize with others when I look back on how I have been able to survive those seasons, and moving forward, that life in itself is about living and enjoying it.
Thank you very much. Also, let's go back to your first accident. Can you walk us through what happened that day?
Okay. That day was a sunny day. It was a good day, like every other day. I was a very young chap, and we lived in an environment that was more or less like an estate. On this day, myself and my immediate older sister, we were in front of the house and we were playing, and our parents had gone to work. So on the other side of the road, because our estate had roads in between, just as you have in estates, that are structured. So adjacent to our house was another house that was undergoing some repair works, carpentry repair works. So I was crossing over to the other side of the road, picking out all the leftover woods for some building blocks. So I would pick up shapes, squares, triangles, and come form some constructive creations on my own side. So I was going back and forth looking for leftovers, and that would suit my creativity, so to say. But as a young child, and because the environment was a bit quiet, vehicular movement was at its minimum at such time of the day. So all of a sudden, as I was told, because for my age, and I can't even remember the period when I got knocked down. But as I was told, all of a sudden there was a jeep, a military jeep. I just came around, and the driver I wouldn't know what happened, knocked me off the road, and there was pandemonium everywhere, and he sped off, and people took me for dead. Those that could rush me to the hospital did, as much as they could communicate to our parents. My sister was in trauma, believing that a younger brother passed on, and some people they went after the culprit, and as much as he could, he ran somewhere, he hid in the bushes, and after some searches, they found him. A manhunt was set out, and he was caught. But long and short, my dad, at the end of the day, he got back, and he went to bail the man, believing that what happened had just happened out of fate, and I took a while to recuperate. I took a while to heal. It took a while for me to go through this period of healing, getting used to walking again, as I went through seeing the physio after the treatment, because there's a big scar that reminds me of the incidents even up until today. As I grew older, all my head, as I was told, this part of my head opened up, this part of my head opened up. I was stitched, and I had to visit the hospital regularly and frequently. So I had to learn how to walk again with the aid of the wheelchair, and also after the wheelchair, I started making good use of the crutches, and today I'm here, and by the special grace of God, there is no side effect or after effect of that period.
Praise God.
Yes, hallelujah.
Yeah. So it takes us to the second accident. How much time passed before your second accident? Were you still dealing with the aftermath of the first when it happened?
Well, as a young child, I didn't have much. I didn't remember anything. I didn't as a young child, and the space time frame before the second one happened, if I can remember vividly, took about a period of say 3-4 years. And the second one was not so different from the first one, but now I was aware of my environment, not so aware, but as a young chap. And that day I was in front of our house and it was a weekend. I remember my parents were in the living room. I think I believe we had some visitors. So I was doing my own thing in front of, I was playing as a youngster would do. And my sister had to go on an errand. She had to run an errand. So she beckoned on me and asked if I would like to go with her, which I, without second thoughts, I just stood up. I can't recollect if she saw me coming along or if she was just pacing up. So there was a road we needed to cross to the other side, not a major road, but a busy road. So she looked left, looked right, and left again before she did her own crossing to the other side. Without a second thought, I just followed her and I got knocked off the road. So as soon as I got knocked off the road, my senses, as much as I can remember, so as the car knocked me off the road, I could still sense my environment. As much as my eyes were shut, I could see myself somersaulting in the air, in mid-air, and I landed on the road, on the hot road, because it was a sunny afternoon. I got rushed to the hospital. My parents dashed down, and it was not as serious as the first time. However, I had some bruises all around my body. So we got the regular disinfectant and what's it called? Iodine, like we call it back then, which every child dreaded. It was put all around my body, and we went back home, and that was it about the second accident. I healed over time, and that was it.
Wow, we are grateful to God for having you. After multiple incidents, I believe you might have developed some form of trauma or fear. So before we go into your third accident, was there anything you felt like trauma or fear at the time?
As a young child, thank you for the question. As a young child, there was no trauma per se. The only, as much as I was scared of cars, I was very scared, and it was my only trauma that I can think of was the thought of when would the next one happen. It came from time to time. That thought came from, oh, the next one was going to happen. So when would it happen? It was a regular thought that I had in my head. But aside from that, because our growing up was a very communal one, amongst friends, amongst people from different ethnic groups, from different parts of the country living around you, there was no much need for trauma, so to say, and you would not even think of so much because you were never alone. You were always around people, so there was no trauma per se.
Thank you very much. Okay, so it takes us to the third accident. What happened in the third one? What was the interval between the second and the third one?
Okay, the time frame, the interval between the second and the third accident was, I think, about 10 years. Between 9 and 11 years, yes. And at this time, the third one, I was in my fourth year in high school, which we also know as the secondary school. That morning when I got up from bed, getting prepared for school, I knew I was extremely sad. I was extremely sad. There was no cause for that sadness. I got up and I was just very sad. Very, very sad. I got prepared for school, and I struggled all the way. I got to school, and when I met my friends, regular gist, discussions, play, hanging around one another. So I forgot about whatever made me sad, and my day continued as normal up until when I was heading back home after close of school. I got to the last bus stop after taking several transits. Got to the last bus stop and I was heading home, and I was going to cross a busy road. Yes, I think more busy than when I was more busy than the second accident. More busy road. And as I stepped on the road, everything went blank. And everywhere just went blank. I didn't know what was around or what was happening around me. And all of a sudden, my senses came back, and I opened my eyes. I was on the floor in my school uniform with my backpack, and I got up and I saw two men on the road with their Vespa. Vespa is a kind of bike that the people from the northern part of our country rode around with. It was their regular means of transportation. But we didn't live in the north, but it was their lifestyle for such kind of means, for that kind of bike. So one way or the other, I got some bruises on my hand that day, and these are the bruises. And I thought, okay, these ones are just minor bruises, but till date, they're still here. And I got up with the help of one of our big sisters, not my own, not blood sister, but some sisters that we looked up to as big sisters in the church back then. She fortunately was around the bus stop at that point in time. She took me and aided me home, and saw my mom. The next day, we just treated, and I was back to school the next day. It was nothing serious, but at the point in time I stepped on the road and the bike knocked me off the road. I knew something happened. I was blank, and within that space I knew probably I had passed out, or I don't know if I was dead, but I knew I had passed out. That was how it happened the third time.
Wow, so much to experience.
Yeah.
And I begin to wonder, if this has happened like 3 times, by the fourth one, were you like prepared, or did it catch you unawares, or you were just set like, oh, something is going to happen again? So let's know about your fourth accident. What happened?
The fourth accident was it was not planned. You know, as a youngster, like I said, we just continued living our lives after every incident. We continued living our life. I continued living my life because we had a lot of friends. I had a lot of friends. We had a lot of people we grew up with, my siblings as well, family, that made it fun for me. So for the fourth one, I was not expecting it. As much as I was very careful with crossing the roads and doing anything like that to be near any vehicle, I was a bit careful. But during this period, one of my uncles had bought over a football tournament, soccer tournament, because I don't know what it's called in different part of the world, but we call it soccer or football in the part of the world I am originally from. So I was planning. It was a Sunday. This happened on a Sunday. I remember very well. I was supposed to go to church. I was supposed to be at church for service. But I looked at it that, well, as a young guy, I needed to make some money to just keep myself going. And the tournament started before Sunday, so we'd been going, I think, from the mid of the week, probably from the beginning of that week. So myself and when I say we, I mean myself and my oldest cousin from my father's side. So my cousin, we rendezvous at some point, now head up to the venue of the tournament. So this Sunday, I had that notice inside of me that they're supposed to be in church, but I just waved it aside and I said, no, a young man must make money. And long and short, we rendezvoused, myself, my cousin, and one of his other friends. He called him his cousin as well, but he was not my own cousin. So we headed up, and after we moved, we got to the popular CMS bus stop in Lagos. And from CMS bus stop, the same bus that we boarded would take us to the final destination, which was Tafawa Balewa Square. So, and the bus we took was the transit bus was the regular Molue bus that we that was very popular back then in Lagos. So we didn't alight from the bus at CMS, so we continued with it. Or if I'm not mistaken, we just took the Molue from CMS, and the bus just was moving on. We were supposed to alight at the Tafa Balewa Square, which is also called the race course, or TBS for short. And as the bus made a bend to the left, we're looking at the TBS, say by about 600 meters away from where we were, and my cousin said it was time for us to alight from the bus. Anytime I was around my cousin, I wanted to always give like a man, a young guy, yes, but I always wanted to give like, oh, I was ready for any action, like, which I was not ready for. So as the bus just made a left, meandered the corner and was going, and at this time it was pacing at a speed limit of 70 kilometers per hour. So my cousin jumped off the bus and used his body weight and mass to make himself be able to withstand the fall like every normal. This was regular practice back home. His cousin, also his friend, jumped off the bus, and I was left without. I did not even have like normal. I don't know why. Without a second thought, I just jumped off the bus, and I thought it was going to be like, oh, I saw my cousin did it. I saw his cousin do it, and it shouldn't be too difficult for me. As I jumped off, it was as if I was floating in the air. As I landed, as soon as my first foot touched the ground like this, I hit the road, and I was gliding on the road. I was gliding. Thankfully to God, the belt I was putting on was the one that took the major impact of the road. And I glided for some meters, and thanks to God, on a regular day, probably because it was on a Sunday, on a regular day, another vehicle would have been coming from behind and would have just climbed on me, and maybe it would have been another story altogether. Okay, so I was gliding on the road, and even we call these people the bus conductors. I could see the shock. Everything just like happened in flash, in my eyes as I fell from the bus. I could see the bus conductor looking at me in shock or in awe. I could see the Tafa Balewa Square in a distance, and everything I could just see all around me. Like, was this the end? So I slid for a while, and now got up. I dusted off my clothes from all the stains and everything I'd taken from the road. As soon as I looked back, I could see the shock on my cousin's face. I still was forming bravado, and I went up, I met him, and long and short, I was now feeling some pains inside of me. I was just praying. I hoped that this was not internal bleeding because the pain was that much. But I was being a man, I was being a guy, not wanting anybody to feel the impact. And my cousin was scared. I knew he was scared. He even mentioned it that, wow, if he had gone home without me going home with him or something, how would he have gone back to tell my dad? That my dad would have killed him. He also said a bit of his own story, how it happened to him back when he was younger. But the long and short was, we still did what we needed to do. We sold tickets, we made some income, and that was it for that day. So that was the fourth episode of that of my vehicular accident.
Amazing. God truly loves you.
I know.
And these are quite some experiences.
Yeah.
What's your biggest takeaway from living through all of these accidents? What's your biggest takeaway from them?
So, if I could run you through something that happened in between when the fourth accident happened and what we had to do for the rest of that day, because it was a tournament that, like I mentioned, my uncle bought it with some of his other colleagues' friends. So after we did all the collections of funds from people that were coming for the event or the tournament, we now went back to, after close of business, we reported at the office, and we're all paid stipends, and we're very shocked that what after all the trauma, all the accident, everything that happened, see what these people, that's what my uncle's friend gave to us. And but before that time, we had helped ourselves as young men, as young men. But why am I bringing this into play? It is not because of works. It is not because of works because of anything you've done. It's because of the love of God that we are alive. And why am I saying this? I had fallen off the bus, and probably I should have, in my senses, say, oh, let me keep everything calm, let me be the good boy. I needed time to recuperate, I needed time to heal up, and I was still playing smart. I was being a smart Alec. But what I'm trying to say out of it is not by what you are. It is the grace of God that saves you. It is the grace of God that sets you apart. It is the grace of God that says it is not your time, even when you don't know. It was the grace of God. So my take from all of this was, it is not of works, lest any man should boast. At the end of the day, it was not because I could jump off the bus that I survived. It was not because I was ready for anything that I survived, but it was because of the grace of God. Yes.
Thank you very much. So currently, when you think about your life before and after these accidents, what feels most different about who you are now?
Okay, a good question. What feels most different for me before, at some point I was a bit young, so I didn't have any thoughts before those times. But when I became aware of myself and my environment, I've become more careful. Now, I know, because I'm a child of God, that it won't happen again. It can't happen again. Now, before I had a relationship with Christ Jesus, before I became became knowledgeable about the things of God, I said I used to think of, when would be the next incident? When will the next accident occur? But now it can't happen. I know it can't happen. So that is the authority I now have. It cannot happen. If it was scheduled or schemed to happen, it can't happen. And I also put myself, it has helped me, because I know that everything we go through in life is a learning point for us. I have learned, and it has helped me to always empathize with people going through situations, not necessarily accidents, maybe sicknesses, maybe ailments, maybe diseases, maybe trauma. You would know that not because they planned it. Sometimes you say, it's because they don't want to move out of that situation. It's because this, is because of that. No, but I can empathize with them and say, sometimes when things happen, people are devastated to the point that they can't help themselves. Empathy has become a watchword, and I take time to listen more than I'm quick to make judgment or conclusions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So finally, if your story could change one listener's perspective or behavior, what will you hope that change would be?
Okay, I know that my story, if we want to put it in the book of, in the Guinness Book of World Records, it should have a place. But that aside, what my story, I believe, should teach anyone in a situation or in a state of mind at this time is, don't remain where you are. There is healing for you. Now, it is not about you, it is about the presence of God that is available to help you through whatever situation you are in. Now, like I mentioned, I didn't put all of the trauma or all of the issues or the situations around me at the point in time that happened to art. I continued living my life. I was joyful. Be joyful. See, until somebody wants to die, that person will not die. If you are not ready to go and you want to live, it is with this mouth you confess it. So I would say, people that are in any situation, any area of life that is not so palatable, I would say build a relationship with God. Try to develop yourself, because with that, you would have a way out of every situation you are in or you find yourself.
Thank you so much, Bibi, for sharing this story with us. I'm sure people are blessed and people have learned.
Okay.
And until the next episode of the Champions, see you and goodbye.
Bye.